All right, next we're going to go to the in-cab inspection. Before we go to the in-cab inspection, we're going to remove our gloves. We never want to get into our cab with our greasy, oily gloves. We take our gloves off and then we open our door. We place whatever we have in our hands. If we have gloves, put them on the floor. If we have a drink, we have paperwork, everything goes on the floor before we get in. Okay? We find our rails. So in this case, the rails on the handrails on the door and in the exterior. Sometimes the handrails are inside the cab, sometimes they're on the outside. Figure out where they are at and use the handrails. 3 points of contact at all times. That means a leg and two hands, 2 legs and 1 hand, 3 points of contact at all times. So we go in, 3 points of contact, 3 points of contact at all times. Get inside our cab. Once we're inside, we can go ahead and collect whatever it is we have on the floor and bring it in and close our door. While we're inside the cab, we're going to be looking for a number of things. Exiting the vehicle is the same way. 3 points of contact at all times. We always do that. And then we collect whatever we need from the floor and take it out. We never exit the vehicle with anything in our hands at all. Our gloves, cups, paperwork, nothing. We're going to be looking for our fire extinguisher, make sure it's ABC rated, that it's fully charged, the expiration date, and that the pin is in and that it's properly mounted and secure. We're going to be looking for 3 triangles. In this case, the triangles are located on the passenger side by the passenger door. Sometimes they're located in the exterior of the vehicle in a box located on the outside of the truck. Wherever the triangles are, you need to find them, make sure that they are in working order, and you know how to use them properly. All right, you enter your vehicle. Again, you use your 3-point stance to get in your vehicle and exit your vehicle. You always. First thing you're going to do when you get in your vehicle is you're going to check to make sure that your seat belt is good. You want no cuts and no frays. You want it to be in good working order. You want to check the latch. You engage it and you pull on it and you tug and you release it to make sure that it releases. And you check that your safety belt works properly. You can make your adjustment up here if it has the adjustment. Next, we're going to go ahead and do a safe start. If your vehicle has a manual transmission, you're going to step on the clutch and depress the clutch all the way to the floor past the working phase up to the clutch brake if you want, or you can just go into the working phase. If it is a automatic, you're just going to turn the truck on while it's in park. And we're going to turn the truck on. First thing we do for safe start is we're going to make sure that all our gauges come on. So we turn the key to the on part. The newer trucks will have a automatic warning to tell us that it's not ready. It's still doing a systems check. Once it does a systems check, the beeping will stop. It'll tell you that there's no maintenance due, and then we can go ahead and start the motor. Once the motor is started, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our gauges. Okay, our coolant should do a gradual rise to normal. Now each truck sometimes can be as high as 200. Typically it's not, but we're going to watch our temperature gauge that it gets a gradual rise to normal. We're going to do our engine oil, and we're going to check that it's inside its parameters for the truck that we're driving. We're going to check our DEF fuel to make sure that we have enough DEF, and then we're going to check our fuel gauge. Now, while the CDL exam doesn't require that you check your fuel gauge, it's always a good thing to make sure you have your fuel, sufficient amount of fuel in your truck. We're going to go to the air pressure gauges. We have a primary and a secondary. In some trucks, the primary and the secondary is a single gauge with 2 needles. So just because you don't have 2 separate gauges doesn't mean you don't have a primary and a secondary. You always will have a primary and a secondary on that. You're going to check your dash lights, your indicators. Okay, you're going to have a right turn signal indicator, a left turn signal indicator, your high beams. Check that your headlights come on and your high beams work. You're going to check your 4-ways. Now, depending on the vehicle, Your four ways may be a red lever that's on the side of the turn signal, and you pull it out, and that activates the turn signal. I'm sorry, not the turn signal, but the four ways. You turn the turn signal to left or right, and that will disengage the four ways, or the emergency hazards. Once you've checked all of your gauges here, we're going to move to the dash. On the dash, we have a heater and a defroster that we have to check. The vehicle must have a working heater and a working defroster. We check the heater by turning the knob all the way to the heat. We turn on our air to maximum. We go to the floor and we put our hand down there to feel the hot air coming from there. Once we do that, we move to the defroster, put our hand up, feel the air coming from the top. It must have a working defroster and a working heater. The vehicle cannot have a air conditioner, and that's okay unless you want to stay cool in the summertime. Then you would want a working, but as far as the CDL goes, it is not necessary to check those items. We're going to move from the heater and the defroster to the windshield. The windshield needs to be intact without cracks. No kind of stickers, this will be removed shortly, can be on the windshield. No large cracks, no excessive pitting. You're going to check your windshield wipers. Okay, the windshield wipers must make firm contact with the windshield and wipe them completely. You're going to check the fluid for the windshield wipers, that they work. And you're going to check the reservoir. Now, depending on the vehicle, some reservoirs are in the truck with you, some reservoirs are under the hood, and other reservoirs are in the back of the cab. So you have to find where your windshield wiper fluid reservoir is and check that to make sure that you have sufficient amount of fluid. In the wintertime, this is really important. You will get your windshield very, very dirty very quickly, and you'll need copious amounts of windshield wiper fluid. We're going to check our windows, that they both go up and down. That warning was to tell me that my windshield wiper fluid is low and needs to be replaced or added to. We're going to check all our mirrors. After we check both our windows, they go up and down and they work function properly. We're going to go to our mirrors, and we have 6 mirrors, 3 on each side. We have 2 fender mirrors on the front. We have 2 fisheye or convex mirrors, and we have 2 flat California mirrors that are our main mirrors. We must adjust those mirrors when we're not moving, and we make the adjustment to us in the driver's seat after we've adjusted the seat to where we want to be. From there, we're going to move to the horn. We have a city horn that we're going to honk, and we have an air horn that we're going to check. You have to check both of those horns. We will also be checking our voltmeter. In this case, the voltmeter happens to be digital. We want it between 12 and 13. 14 volts is fine. 12 to 14 volts cannot be lower. We don't want it overcharging the system either. So 12 to 14 volts, we are checking our voltmeter. Once we have completed all of this, part of the in-cab inspection, it is not a separate test. If you tell your examiner that I'm done with my in-cab inspection, he could end the test because you just told him that you were done with the test, and you would fail automatically. You must, as part of the in-cab inspection, you must perform the air brake check. There is a few components. We're going to go over those components right now. While we were sitting here with the truck idling, we were building up our air pressure to 125 psi. It is best to start this air pressure check at maximum pressure, which is 125 psi. Minimum is 100. You have to have no less than 100 psi before you do the test, but you're better off starting the test at a full 125 psi, and you'll see that in both gauges or both needles have reached the 125 psi mark. So I'm going to turn off the truck. I'm going to make sure that my truck is in neutral. Okay, I am in park, or I am, if I have a stick, I have stepped on the clutch and put the truck into first gear. With my foot still on the clutch, I would turn off the truck. Okay? I would then release my clutch, and then I would turn the key back to the on position, but not with the motor running. My gauges should all be working at this point. Understand how this works. If the key is not in, the gauges won't work. And I need to be able to look at my gauges and see what my air pressure is going to do. And I can't do that if I don't have my key turned on. I have to turn my key on. You can fail the test for simply forgetting to turn the key to the on position. So we move to the on position. All my gauges are working. I am going to release my brakes. So I push in my yellow one and hold it, and it locks in place. So after I push in the yellow knob, I'm going to push in the red knob. Again, hold it for just a second till it locks in place. So now both knobs are pushed in. My key is on the on position. I can now start my test. My first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to step on the brake, and I'm going to put approximately 90 pounds of pressure on there. I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to wait for my gauges to stabilize. Okay? Once they stabilize, I cannot lose more on a combination vehicle, more than 4 pounds of pressure in 1 minute. And I will time myself for 1 minute. Or you can ask your examiner, if you don't have a watch or a clock, to time yourself. Mr. Examiner, can you time me for 1 minute as I hold my foot on the brake pedal and see that I don't lose more than 4 pounds of pressure on a combination vehicle? And yes, you do need to hold it for a full 1 minute. And there we have 1 minute. And we can see that we have not lost more than 4 pounds of pressure. Next, we're going to go to the emergency air warning. And I'm going to fan the brake pedal. And as I fan the brake pedal, you'll see both needles will start to drop. When they get to 60 psi, we'll have an emergency light come here. And then on the secondary at 60 psi, you have a light come on here. And you'll have an audible warning as well. There's my audible warning and my light for my primary and my secondary. Then I'm going to continue to fan the brakes down until my gauges pop. Show that I've dropped to approximately 40-45 psi. My red knob will pop out, and when it drops to 20 psi, my yellow knob will pop out. There's my red knob. And there's my yellow knob. And that would conclude my valve checks. Next, I'm going to turn the truck back on. Once it reaches 60 psi, my alarm will go off. I've reached 60 psi and my alarms have gone off, and I will continue to raise my air pressure back up to 125 psi. Once I reach 125 psi, I'm going to do the final brake check. The final brake check is where I'm going to drive forward at approximately 5 miles per hour, and I'm going to step on my brake pedal and see if the vehicle will pull to the right or to the left. After I've done that, I'm going to do the last brake check where I will push in and test each brake separately. I'm going to test my parking brake on the tractor and the parking brake on the trailer. So I would push the yellow knob in and pull forward. I should not move. and then I would pull the yellow knob out, push the red knob in, pull forward. I should not move.